So now that the Exorcist trailer is out, we're going to talk about what to expect from the movie. But first, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and press the bell. That way you know every time I post a new video. So the Exorcist trailer is out, and I've been scouring through YouTube and watching a lot of different trailer reaction videos and trailer reviews, and I'm seeing a lot of people out there who are trashing the movie already before even seeing it. And then I'm seeing some people who are excited, but for the most part, I'm not seeing too much excitement for it. I'm one that's definitely excited for the movie, and that's because I've lowered my expectations going into it. So what I will say about this movie right off the bat is don't go into it expecting the old Exorcist. You can't expect 1973 right now in 2023. They're going to play it safe. Before we even get to playing it safe, let's talk about CGI. If you've watched any of my past videos, wherever I talk about CGI, you know that I'm one that doesn't really like it in horror movies. I think it takes away the scare factor more than it presents any. A good example of that is The Pope's Exorcist. Like, while I like the movie, I didn't care for a lot of the CGI that occurred toward the ending of it. I'm just not a big fan of it. I think it just takes away too much from the movie. What made The Exorcist 1973 so good was all of the practical effects. You know, it was all real makeup. When the room was really cold and they had to go in there and do that scene, they actually made the room cold. It wasn't CGI pumping smoke into the room or anything like that. It was actually freezing in there. They had to use practical effects, and it made the movie more believable. Scenes like the head spin looked fake because it was animatronic, or there was someone in there spinning the fake head, or whatever it was. I get that. So if they can minimize that as much as possible in this movie, it'll definitely help. But I think it's 2023. We're going to see some CGI somewhere in this movie. It's not all going to be practical. Now, I know Christopher Nelson did work on this movie, which gives me hope, which means he's done all of the makeup and you know, practical makeup effects on this movie. So that's exciting to hear. But I would say go into it expecting some CGI, just hopefully kept to a minimal if possible, and that will help the movie a lot. The next thing I'm going to say is, because of the year we're in, Blumhouse is going to take the safe route on this one. You're not going to see some of the crazy things that you saw in the 73 version of The Exorcist. I mean, back then they went over the top to the point that the Catholic Church was trying to have it banned and removed from theaters. I don't think you're going to hear things like,
"Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Paris, you faithless swine."
On top of that, we're not going to see some of those really over-the-top scenes that really pissed off the Catholic Church, like what Reagan did with the cross in the unedited version of the movie. I think in today's climate in the movie industry and just the way that people are in general, that one's just not going to go over well with an audience and probably wouldn't even make it into the theaters. It'd probably end up on a director's cut or something if they even went that far with it. The problem here is that a lot of those crazy over-the-top things that they did that really pissed off the Catholic Church, it really got under the skin of people who are very religious. That's the reason that this movie is still talked about today. So I just think where we are today, that's just a little too over the top for most audiences. And I think they're going to play it safe on this one. And unfortunately, by playing it safe, I think what that means is it's going to be hard to make it feel like The Exorcist. I mean, you can throw in the theme song like they did in the trailer, and of course it'll be present in the movie. You could bring in legacy characters like Ellen Burstyn to play Chris McNeil, and those little things will give it the nostalgia factor of feeling like the Exorcist. But when you remove all of the quotable lines that were in the original Exorcist, when you remove the practical effects, all of those things that make The Exorcist are going to go away. And I think that's one of the big unfortunate parts of this. And by doing that, it's going to be hard to differentiate this movie from every other exorcism movie that we've seen in the last 10 to 15 years. Now, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping they do decide to go over the top with it like the original did. You know, I think David Gordon Green knows that he's going to have to do a lot more than just bring back a legacy character and bring back the old theme song to turn it into The Exorcist. He's really going to have to tap into what made The Exorcist good. You know, what made the original Exorcist really good to me wasn't so much just the demonic possession part of it, it was the character storytelling. You know, we really got to learn a lot about Father Karen, right? We've learned that he's questioning his faith for the most part. We see when he loses his mother and he kind of blames himself for that, and there's so much going on in his life, and we get this emotional attachment to the character, and that emotional attachment comes through when he's doing the exorcism and Reagan starts to speak in the voice of his mother.
Dime, why you do this to me?
And we see how that affects him, you know, so we as an audience have an emotional attachment to the character, not so much the exorcism itself. So that's, to me, what makes a movie like The Exorcist so good. We had similar attachments to Reagan and to Chris McNeil. There was a very deep character development going on in this movie beyond just the demonic possession. And if those things aren't present in this new movie, then it's not going to feel like The Exorcist. You know, we're gonna have to have some kind of emotional attachment in the film to these two girls that are getting possessed. We're gonna have to have some kind of emotional connection with the families of the possessed, or there's gotta be more, you know? We already have that with the character of Chris McNeil, so now they've gotta dig a little bit deeper. So to wrap everything up, I would say, you know, we need to lower our expectations going into this new Exorcist movie. You know, like I said earlier, there's going to be some CGI. That's, you know, a given in today's climate. It's an available resource. You know, back in the days, they had to use that practical effect. I think in today's exorcism movie, they're always going to find a reason to use it to try to make it scarier, which doesn't always work. I think we're not going to get that deep emotional character connection that we got from the original Exorcist. I mean, when you look at any of David Gordon Green's previous movies, especially the Halloween franchise, he didn't do a lot to build the characters, right? He just tried to, you know, kind of tug on our memories of Halloween and assume that we don't need the character development and we can just go straight into all of the killing and so on. Which, don't get me wrong, I love these movies, but I definitely would have liked a deeper character development, a deeper emotional connection to a character like we had to Laurie Strode in that original movie from 1978. And I think the same thing's gonna happen again just because of the track record. You know, with The Exorcist, we had that deep emotional connection to Father Karen. We had that connection to Reagan, to Chris McNeil. We're not going to get that this time around. At least I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we get serious character connection on this one, because that's what makes us involved. You know, when we see the demonic possession happening and all of a sudden we start to cheer for the priest or so on, or whoever's doing the exorcism, it's because of the connection we've built with them throughout the entire story. So that's what we want. So I'm not really hopeful that we're going to get that. I think he's going to focus more on the demonic possession side of it. That's a lot of what we saw in the trailer, which, you know, the trailer can mean anything, but it is Universal, it is Blumhouse, and they're known to give away pretty much everything in their trailers. I'll also say, don't think too much into the legacy characters. I think we'll get a bit from Chris McNeil. I think she's going to play, you know, a good part in this movie. But I also noticed that Linda Blair has a credit on this film, but I don't think we're going to see her until the very end. I think we're going to get one of those moments where the entire movie has passed, and in the last maybe minute of the movie, she's going to walk into the room, say a one-liner that's going to lead us into the part 2 of this movie. Because we do know this is going to be a trilogy, that's already been said. So I think we'll get Linda Blair for the next movie, but I don't think we're going to get anything from her in this one other than that one cameo at the very end of the movie. You know, it's kind of this new thing in horror, right? We saw it in Candyman. We saw that with Tony Todd. He got this big credit on the movie when they first announced it, and we thought Tony Todd's coming back. He's going to be Candyman, at least for a portion of this movie. We got him in the last 20 seconds of the film. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen this time around. I know it's a different director, different producer, but the rules are still the same in terms of where we are today with horror movies. That's just a thing that's happening right now in the requel phase. Now, with all that said, while I'm lowering my expectations for the movie, it doesn't mean I think the movie's going to be bad. I think we're still going to get a good Exorcist movie. I just don't know that it's going to feel like The Exorcist. Or is it going to feel like the typical exorcism movie that we've gotten over the past 10 to 15 years? And I think that's more than likely, but, you know, I am still excited to see this movie. I'm excited that Ellen Bernstein is back. I'm excited that we might have the possibility of seeing Reagan, no matter whether it's, for 10 seconds or 10 minutes of the film, whatever it is. If we get to see her, that's going to be a great nostalgic moment. The theme song, that scene in the church was really exciting to me. So I'm really hopeful for the movie. I'm lowering my expectations. So when I say that, I'm not saying I think the movie's gonna be bad. I'm expecting a terrible Exorcist film. I'm just not expecting the first Exorcist, and I think that's where a lot of fans go wrong. They tend to expect the first movie whenever we get a requel or a remake. They want to see almost a shot-for-shot remake, and then they'll complain when it is because they'll say, oh, it's exactly like the first one. Well, then if they give you something different, then you'll say, this was so different from the first one, it's not the same. That's why you got to lower your expectations. Don't expect the first film at all. Don't expect anything like the first film. But it's okay to hope for a good movie and expect a good movie. Just don't expect the Exorcist movie, because I don't think it's going to be that.